Begin the current Daf Yomi Shabbos Daf Kofal. We begin at the bottom of Kofam base, the bottom line, where we're in the middle of a discussion regarding the malacha of Haitzah and Zayrik, throwing something as it applies to the body of water known as the sea, as that applies to Haitzah. Our shiur is quotes from the Kazakh and the Cheskel Torah anytime Daf Chaim. When he's joining us, Zoom Olam. Some ideas we're going to speak on today's daf is that of a boat. As we spoke about, a boat is Rishus Yachid, is a private domain. It's 10 tefachim deep and it's 4 tefachim wide. We spoke about regarding that of Koichai, your force, which is not directly throwing into the Karmelis, but throwing onto the wall, which that force then makes it go into the body of the water. This is when we speak about Gur Achas Mechitzasa, which is the halachic function of a wall, which is that even if, let's say, the whole area does not have a 4 tefachim wide, it has 10 tefachim high, but not 4 tefachim wide, Good achas means extending achas downward of mechitzas of the walls. We view halachically as if the wall is extending down, and as if the whole thing has the dimensions of the 4 by 10 that you need to have for a Rishus Yachid. However, that runs into the problem what's called mechitza shal gedoyim boikin ba. The wall that the kid goes walking through. This is where you get interesting when you come to theory to practical. How could you say there's a wall over here? If goats are walking through, there's a wall here? I mean, what does that mean? There's no wall. The goats are walking through. Then that actually invalidates these halachic walls. Also, we're going to bring up an interesting concept known as cher v'harei kachal. Generally, when it comes to laws of tumah, transmission of tumah lowers as it goes along. A dead person is called the grandfather of tumah. Someone that touches this comes to the abba tumah. Someone then further and further. What's unique about metal is that we know it's a conductor. The laws of tumah also is it has the same halachic status like the dead person. Cher is the sword that killed him. It's like the dead person. It will be like an Avi Avayis Tum itself. That we're going to see will come up at the end of the daf. This is what we're going to discuss regarding what we mentioned regarding boats that are tied one to the other. We're going to discuss why does it have to be tied to be able to carry from one boat to another boat. So we begin the current daf, Kuf Aleph on the bottom of Kuf on the base, the bottom line, where we had said that although Kaicha is normally Aser, the Chazal will never gaze against transferring to a Karmelis through Kaicha, which is building on the wall of the boat and then going down into the Karmelis. On that, the Gemara says, "No Tamra, where do we know this concept from?" So this says the time like in the Brisa. The Brisa says, "Svina boat, aimatalni, not allowed to carry lemekeichel yam, not from the boat into the sea, but lemon yam lateicha, not from the sea into the boat, because again, the boat is a Rishus Yachid and the sea is a Karmelis. So although biblically you're not going to violate anything, but rabbinically it's forbidden because of a Karmelis." Now, as you continue top of Kafal Madala, Rabbi Yehuda, he says following interesting case. It's again one of those you have to just help up a little bit. Amuka, if the boat is deep, asara, 10 tefachim. So the height of the boat inside the boat is a Rishus Yachid, because inside is 10 tefachim high. But ve'ein gavaya, but the edge of the boat is not high, asara, 10 tefachim from the water. Because as we know, as often is, the boat is submerged into the water because of the weight of the boat. So from here to here, it's not 10 tefachim. But inside the boat, it is 10 tefachim. So on that says Yehuda like this. He says, "Metalton l'mateichel yam." What you could do is you could carry water from inside the boat to the sea, as we're going to shortly explain, meaning over the walls. So like you're spilling out the water, which is kaichai, which is the exact proof we're trying to bring. That's why we're going to show a discrepancy between drawing water in or pulling water out. Pouring water out, you could do it through the walls, and it's going to be kaichai, which was said in the Karmelis, they weren't geyser kaichai to make it forbidden. But you cannot draw water from the sea into the boat, which, as Rashi explains, there's no way of doing kaichai the reverse way, spilling water on the wall of the boat, because if you're going to do that, it's going to spill all over the floor of the boat. You're not going to be able to take the water anyway. Now Rashi explains, why did we explain the case exactly this? Interesting. The boat has to be 10 tefachim deep, because if it's not 10 tefachim deep, that means to say the boat itself is a Karmelis, because it wouldn't have the dimension of Rishus Yachid, and then you can be carrying, then you could directly carry from the yam inside the boat. If you have a tiny little boat, it's a Karmelis. A Karmelis you could carry. It's no problem, as long as you didn't carry more than $1. Additionally, we have to say that the height of the boat from the sea is not more than 10 tefachim, is because if it was 10 tefachim high, and actually you would be able to carry from the sea into the boat. Why is that? Why would that make it better? Why does it have to be within 10 tefachim? Why would it be the boat, which you have this big, huge cruise ship, and why would that make it better? Because from a Karmelis to a Rishus Yachid, this is a Karmelis, this is a Rishus Yachid. Derech Malkam P'tur, through an exempted area. What's an exempted area? You have to lift it up higher than 10 tefachim from the surface of the sea. That's Malkam P'tur. So therefore, although generally, like Rashi points out, by biblical rishuyas, let's say from Rishus Ram to Rishus Yachid, we said on Daf Ches, you would be chayiv in such a way, even though quote you're going derech makom Torah. But a karmelis is rabbinic. We didn't make a gzeir if you carry from the rabbinic domain to Rishus Yachid through a makom Torah to make it awesome. So the case is precise. The case has to be that the boat is 10 tefachim, because it was less than you would actually be able to go either direction. It also has to be that, however, the top of the wall is less than 10 tefachim from here, because then actually you would be able to draw the water from the sea inside, because you would be going from a karmelis to a makom Torah into the boat, which would be mut. So that's the case. Now that the Gemara develops the proof. Why are you saying you cannot draw the water from the sea into the boat? Because the karmelis you're carrying from a karmelis to a Rishus Hayachid, so then what's the double standard? Then from in the boat into the sea also. Why is it any different? You came from Rishus Hayachid to Karmelis. Rather the Gemara proves this is what we were saying. Achuda, you're doing it by the top of the boat, on the rim, you're pouring the water out on the edge of the boat and it's going on the wall of the boat into the sea. What could you infer is what you see is, yes, like we said, drawing the water, you can't pour it. If you were able to do such a thing, you'd be able to draw the water too. Spill it on the wall and let it come inside. You can't take water that way. Here, the reason why it's permitted from the Rishus Yachid to the Karmelis is because you're doing it on the wall, it's spilling out, and that's Koicha B'Karmelis, and therefore, that's the raya that we had for the halacha we had before. Now we continue with this halachas of carrying on the boat on Shabbos. Amar Rav Huna says, Hani bitzasa demesha. There were these small little boats that get narrow on the bottom, like the point of a blade, which is similar to that of a canoe, in this place called Mesh. Says Rav Huna as follows: says, Ein metal man. Says you're not allowed to carry in these boats. Why are you not allowed to carry in these boats? Because you're not Rishus Hayachid. Why isn't it Rishus Hayachid? It's my own private boat. No. Thing is you don't have 4 tefachim wide on the bottom of the boat. So that's not a mechitza. It's not a halachic Rishus Hayachid. Although it's a huge wide boat, but on the bottom it gets very narrow, and you don't have the dimensions of Rishus Hayachid. It's not Rishus Hayachid. You're not carrying this like a karmelis. You could only carry el ba'arba is the girsa, only within 4 amas. In the karmelis, when you have a wide open area that's not enclosed for residential purposes, so it's like a karmelis, not Rishus Harab. So you're not allowed to carry. You're allowed to carry within 4 amas. That's the halachic status of this boat. Now, on that, the Gemara gives 2 qualifications. For lo yamarim, we didn't say this ela she'ein, only if you don't have that by the bottom height of the boat, that bepachis mishleisha, that when it's less than 3 tefachim from the ground of the boat, arba, that you don't have a width of 4 tefachim. Now, even if you have in the width by a height of 10 tefachim, it's not going to be permitted because the bottom part of the boat is going to be considered that you don't have a wall because it's mechitza tluya. Avayesh bepachis megimel, this is the cheshbon over here. But if within 3 tefachim, look, this is like we have this ruler over here. If within 3 tefachim you have a thickness, you have a width of arba, of 4 tefachim, so until it didn't get to a height of 3 tefachim, it's already 4 tefachim wide, less than ba. We're not bothered by that. It's like as if the ground has all of it 4 tefachim, and it's considered mechitza because of the halacha known as lavin. So if within 3 tefachim height, it is already 4 tefachim wide, it's good. It's considered a Rishus Hayachid. That's one exception. Exception number 2 is v'imalinu. Let's say you filled up until where it gets wide. You filled it up with kani, with reeds, or v'urvini, or with willow branches. They're also less lamba. That's also not going to bother us. That's also kosher to carry. If you have from this part width of 4 tefachim, and even if let's say it was higher than 3 tefachim, wasn't within 3 tefachim, it's going to fill up the gap like as if you stuffed it up with earth. So this domain has a height of 10 tefachim with a width of 4 tefachim because you stuffed up the bottom of the canoe. So those are 2 approaches how you could have these canoes and they'll be permitted to carry that it will be Rishus Hayachid to carrying it on Shabbos. However, the Gemara asks on this halacha, Maskebel Rav Nachman, regarding the opening part of your halacha, you described this case. Let's say before let's say it only gets to 4 tvachim wide, let's say by 4 tvachim height, and it's not stuffed up. You said, huh? You can't carry in the boat. It's mechitza tluya. It's hanging walls. It's not, doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. It's not a rishus hayachid. You said you can't carry in it. And Rav Nachman asked, why can't you carry in the boat? For them you should say good achas michitzasa. Again, the word good means to extend. Achas means downwards. Michitzasa, the walls. Meaning, from the area of the top part, which is wide, go downwards as if you see it going down to the ground, and therefore it's not considered like hanging walls. You say that it's a halachic concept known as good achas. So wherever it is that you have the width of 4 tvachim, see it going downwards and consider it as it is walls. As the Gemara proves this halacha. Milei Tanya, didn't we learn in the Braisa? Rabbi Yosef says, "Not kana b'shus harab." You stick a pole in the public domain. On the top you put a basket. So as Rashi explains, the basket itself is not 10 tefachim in its depth. But we're still going to measure the height of the 10 tefachim because the measurement of the pole will work for the element of the height. Now, but the reed itself, the pole itself, does not have a width of 4 tefachim. Rather, we say that the walls of the basket, we say good achis, we view it as if it's extending downwards, and we see that the whole pole is surrounding with that area, that dimension of the basket. So it's as if you surround it from the ground going upwards, with going all the way to the top, with walls all around, because you view the walls of the basket. I would draw the basket a little bit higher just so you see the wall. You see it as if it's coming down. And therefore, if someone's bizarre, someone throws from Rishus Rabbah, v'nachal gabav, and it lands on top of the basket, why? Because we view this as a Rishus Yachid, because it has a height of 10 tefachim, and it has a width of 4 tefachim too. Almar mina godachas michatzasa, you say we draw the line downwards. So hachanami nema godachas michatzasa. Why are you saying in your case of the boat that it's possible, meaning that you can't carry as a Rishus Yachid? Why not view the walls as if they're coming downwards? Whatever, let's say it wasn't this angle, let's say it was just to simplify and then it gets narrow. You view it as if it's coming down. Why are you differentiating that over here we say godachas and they're not? So on that maskal of Rabbi Yosef actually goes and actually asks on this question of Rav Nachman. He says, wait a second. Didn't you hear this, what Rabbi Yehuda qualified? And Matuba, and some say it that actually was that Mishum Rebchia, that Rebchia said it, that Betanya lower than the Braisa, actually about Chum Paitrim. Actually, no, this halacha that you're saying of Godachas, the sages say you're actually exempted if you're on top of that basket. Which obviously you don't say good achas to permit when it's a hanging wall. When you have this wall that's so to speak hanging, you don't say that you view those walls as if they're coming down to the bottom. So to the contrary, the same halacha you're trying to make a raya from, we see that actually you don't say good achas. So don't ask on me from that. Because it was qualified that the Chum say that you're going to be pot. Now, on that question of Rav Yosef on Rav Nachman, Amalei Abaye. Abaye refutes the question of Rav Yosef on Rav Nachman, thus validating the point of Rav Nachman to say that you do say good achas. Because Amalei Abaye says, whoa, wait a second. Abad Tisra, don't you hold that in such a situation that you would say good achas? Meaning, but we learned the Bryce in this case number 2. You have an Amid Rishus Harab, you have a post, a beam in Rishus Harab. That's Gevaya Asar V'Rachim Dal. It's 10 Tvachim high, it's 4 Tvachim wide, but that's on the top. But the Ein Be'ikare, you don't have at the base a width of Dal or 4 Tvachim. Now, because it narrows. Now, but V'yesh B'Katzer Shalai, what you have is, by that narrow part of the base, which is not 4 Tvachim wide, you have a height of Gimel of 3 Tvachim, and that's the Chiddush part, where you can't say love it anymore, from the place where the thickness is diminishing by the ground, because if it was, like we said, within 3 Tvachim, 4 Tvachim wide, then we would say it's okay, according to everyone, because of love it. We say no. It only reaches a width of 4 Tvachim once it's higher than 3 Tvachim from the ground. The Zark v'nachal gabav, and you throw on top of it chayiv. You get michayiv. Alma obviously says a bayit to Rav Yosef. I mean, a good achas michatzah. So we do say that we view the walls on the top extending downward all around, and it's as if the whole width, even on the bottom, is surrounded with this wall. So Chinamis, it says here also, by these boats in Meishan, these canoes, you should also say good achas michatzah. Meaning he refutes from this halacha that you see you do say good achas michatzah. So on that, Abaye continues and says, wait a second. Because midi area, he's coming, this is all Abaye talking to Rav Yosef. He says, this that you brought a raya that we said, Chachamim Paitrim, on this halacha that you said, the Chachamim say you were exempt, so you wanted to bring a raya that you don't say good achas. He says, wait a second. That's not a raya to the case from this case of the basket that Rabban say you can be patur, that, oh, you see, you don't say good achas, therefore here by the boat, oh, so we're not going to say good achas? That's not a right, it's not true. It's not similar. The case of the boat, says Abaya, is similar to the case of this pillar, which you do say good achas, and it's not similar to the case of the basket. Why not? Aren't they all the same principle of good achas? And that's what the Gemara introduces, that there's a concept here that differentiates. Because Hasam Havalimachitza Shagadoyim Boikimbo. There, the case of the basket is a case where goats are breaking through these virtual walls underneath by the earth, under the walls of the basket, where it spreads out in the width from the pole that it's on all sides. You can't say gunachas because goats are walking beneath it. So you can't say you view a wall, the virtual wall is a farce if you have goats walking beneath it. You're not walking through walls. Now, Hacha, but over here by the case of the boat, it's walls that there's no goats walking through because no goats are walking through the water.
Why not?
Because it's water, right? We're going to get to your question in a second.
Because we said before that you measured the ground from the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
So between the bottom of the ocean, and that's considered the floor.
Right.
So from the bottom of the ocean to the boat
it's higher than 10 feet.
It's not considered a solid, obviously. So technically,
it could go, but they're not. Yeah, you're going to see in a second another svar that also sounds a little bit. You have to understand what this svar is, but just for practical understanding, it's saying in a very practical way. If we could say virtual walls, as long as we don't have a direct contradiction to its concept. If you have goats walking through, like in Talmudic times, there's goats like in the Yerushalayim, there's the cats. If they're walking through, you can't say a wall because it's a farce. It's being deconstructed every time.
Fish. You have something else.
That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's going to ask that question. But for right now, we're saying that there's no goats walking beneath, and so too, this case, the goats, the way Abai understands, they don't usually go and scrape themselves against it because it's only very little space, so you don't have Gedoyim Boikimbo. Hey, you have Gedoyim Boikimbo, you can't say good achas, but generally we would say good achas, and therefore, actually when Rav Nachman asked his question, Abai holds to this question. He says, no, you don't have to have width in Gimel Tfachim to have a width of Dal and Amas. Even if not, you'll say good achas, and therefore they disagree on that halacha, and they say you would say good achas. On that, the Gemara asks, he says, wait a second. He says, Nami, even by the boat, take a bikiyas dogim. What do you mean? You have the fish swimming beneath. How could you say a wall as the fish are swimming underneath? And then Amalei said the bikiyas dogim loishmei bikiyah. The breaking through of the fish is not considered breaking through. And Rashi says because they're not seen. If we don't see it, it's not there. Now we do find that concept in halacha quite often with bugs and different things. We find with this esrig, we find that if you don't see it, out of sight, out of mind, we don't have a problem with that. We can consider something as virtual if it's not something that's sensory contradictory. So therefore, if you don't see the fish, it's not considered a problem. Again, yes, Lesh Laden in what exactly the depth of that concept is. But the Gemara says, Militamer, how do you know this concept, that that's true, that we don't say that the fish breaking through is considered breaking through? Because the Baim and they Reb Tavla Mirav. He asked the following question. He says, Mechitza Tluyah. He says, if you have a hanging wall, what's halacha? Will it permit by a ruin, churva? Which Rashi just says that's just the place normally that you would find a hanging wall, because a lot of it is broken and you'll just have a wall that's hanging. So what's halacha? Does it permit carrying in that churva, that it shouldn't be like breached to the Rosh Hashanah? Because you have a wall, but the bottom of the wall was cracked and you see the whole sheetrock is just all over the floor. So is that a Rosh Hashanah yachid or not? The wall is 10 tefachim high, and it's enclosing the room, but it doesn't go down to the bottom of the ground. So is that mechitza tluya? Is that permitted or not? So Abu Amalei said to him, no. A mechitza tluya materes. A hanging wall does not permit an area as a contingency base. Elabamine only in water. For example, Rashi gives an example like a balcony, a seafront apartment over the sea, literally hanging over the sea. The Mishnah Erevin on the Pezayim base teaches that you could make a wall around your balcony. You could actually fill up water from your balcony from the sea beneath you, because it's a mechitza tluya, a hanging wall. Doesn't go down into the sea, but the hanging wall, we view it as if it permits going downwards with good achis, and it's going to permit over the body of water. So let's say you have a pit between two courtyards, and you split the courtyard with a wall over the pit. So each one's allowed to fill up from his side, even though it doesn't go down to the bottom, even though there's no Erev. The Gemara there and Erev explains the mechitza tluyah, the hanging wall, considers if it goes down to the bottom, which is kalu shekilu chacham b'mayim, as we'll explain Erevin, that's a leniency the sages made regarding water. A hanging wall is not considered a wall because it doesn't go down to the bottom. Like goats could walk beneath it, but by the water we view it as if it goes down to the bottom. It's a leniency. A hanging wall permit.
When you gedachas in order to be matter taking water from the ocean.
It's a carmelist.
Yeah, but you take it from the
If you're taking a Malkum tour, well, let's say it wouldn't be higher than 10 fachim. Let's say it would be lower than 10 fachim. Then it wouldn't be derech Malkum tour. Also, you have to know what that would be, because if it's right beneath your porch, that's a Rosh Hashanah. You have to know what that area would be considered. But definitely, if it was, let's say, within 10 fachim, it wouldn't be derech Malkum tour. So, yeah, that's a good question. So that he said leniency they made by water. So it's but why? How you can is the dogim? What do you mean? Just like you have a problem by a hanging wall that you can't consider a wall because things can come underneath it. So over here also, how could you consider this a wall over the water, but the fish are swimming through and through? How could you see that as a water? No, obviously Bekiyas to go dogim lishma bekiya. Our principle stands true that we're not concerned for the fish swimming beneath. We could say gurachis, because since you don't see them, therefore that does not invalidate the halachic walls, and that's the same principle we're saying over here regarding the boat. To explain the halacha of the Mishnah, we said that sfinas keshuris b'chulu. If we have boats that are tied one to the other, then on Shabbos you're allowed to carry from one boat to the other. So that says the Gemara. So all our nautical friends get excited now. They could go on Shabbos and they have their boats tied to each other, and then they can go ahead and have a get together Shabbos on the boats. Says the Pshita, obviously you're allowed to carry. What's the chiddush? It's Rosh Hashanah. It's to Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav says that would be simple if it was your own boats. Your own boats, it's like your own rooms attached to another. It's all one Rosh Hashanah. It says Leit Nitzchanu was necessary to tell you that you're allowed to carry on Shabbos is Elahatu. First the Gemara says a different approach. It doesn't say the one that we're going to say. First the Gemara says Elahatu bitza shabineim. It permits when you have a small boat beneath your two yachts. So it's telling you that you can carry through the small little boat between the two boats. Even though it's not tied together, it's permitted by having the two boats. So imagine here you have like these two big cruisers over here, and you have this small little boat between them. That by having the two outer ones tied, you're allowed to carry through the small little boat, it's not here in the picture, through the small boat to the other boat. And we're not concerned that maybe the smaller boat might be removed and then you can be carrying through the airspace of the Kammelis. As long as there's a little boat, sometimes you have these big ships that can't come too close. So you have them tied, and you have this small little boat in the middle. You're allowed to carry through that one to the outer one. So that only Rav Safi says Moshe, which in other words meaning like the great one of our generation, like Moshe in his generation, Shapa Kamet. Like in Yiddish would be, or Yiddish yeshivish language would be tiny good. What do you mean? You think you're saying good? Well, metal lemezulazut. Now the Mishnah says you're allowed to carry from one to the other one, which sounds like that there's no other boat that you're going through that you carry from one to the other. How are you saying that? As long as the two outer ones are connected, then you could go through the middle boat that's not connected, and you're not concerned that it's going to fall away and then you're going to be carrying through the airspace of the Kammelis. But it doesn't say from one to the other to the other. It says from one to the other. So on that, Elam Rav Safi gives a different interpretation. Loin Nitzchli says it's only necessary Elam La'arev. We're talking about that if you're making an Eruv, Chatzeris, L'talpul Mezulazu, and they carry from one boat to the other one, that's the Chiddush of the Mishnah. That even the boat belongs to two different people, that you have to make an Eruv, that you're allowed to make an Eruv, and you're allowed to carry from one to the other, which Taisa says the Chiddush of the here is that an Eruv works by boats, even though it's not permanent, because you would have thought to say that it's not going to remain over here, so an Eruv is not going to work, Kamash Malan, that it's going to help. You can make an Eruv on boats. You're talking like Linda Brisa. Spins Kashur Zu Bezu. If you have boats tied one to the other, Ma'arv in the Metal Mazulazu, you're allowed to make an Eruv, so you could have the Princess Cruise Line or whatever, all these, and you have Norwegian, and you have all of them. They go and the Yiddish cruise ships. They go and they for Shabbos they go and they tie them together and they make an eruv, and then you can carry from one to the other. But nifsaku, if let's say the tie got detached, so then the eruv is not going to work anymore because they're getting detached, and therefore nesru becomes forbidden to carry from one to the other. Now let's say chazar v'nikshu. Let's say in Shabbos somehow it gets reattached on Shabbos. So then says the Brisa ben shagin, whether it was an error of someone making a mistake, not knowing it's Shabbos, or let's say not knowing that it's forbidden to do that on Shabbos. Ubein mazidin, whether it's done deliberately, or bein anusin, whether it's done unwillingly, or bein muta'in, whether it's done accidentally. What accidentally is different than shegig is that it's really based on what's called misasik. Is that you're really trying to tie one thing, and you thought you were tying one thing, ends up tying this. You didn't even intend to do that. Either way, chazul eteranavishim, it goes back to its original permissibility, and now you're allowed to carry on Shabbos from one boat to the other boat. And b'chein, so too we have an interesting halacha regarding the halacha of mechitzas on Shabbos. If you have machzalas haprusas, if you have mats that are hung, and you made many different partitions, and people are dwelling in each one of those partitions, this one in this room and that one in that one. So a lot of people do this in the Catskills in the country. There's no bedrooms. You have 3 bedrooms for 7 couples. So sometimes they take these, for the kids at least, they take these curtains and they hang up, making it into separate rooms. So ma'arvin metablim zulazu. So you're allowed to make an erev. Let's say it's different families. You can make an erev and you can carry from one to the other. Well, let's say niglulu. Let's say it got rolled up. So next year becomes forbidden because now you have non-erev area over here, because the erev is only when you have these domains that are distinct. It gets rolled up and becomes forbidden. Chazhav and niflis, but let's say it goes back and gets rolled back down somehow, bein shegim and mazidin, whether by mistake or deliberately, bein anusim, whether unwillingly, or bein matan, whether accidentally. Chazhav tenerishna goes back to its original heter, as the Bryce explains, which is an important halacha l'maisa. Shekol mechitza shenasa b'Shabbos, any partition that's made on Shabbos, bein shegim and mazidin, whether by mistake, whether deliberately, shema mechitza is called a wall, and it has the halachic significance of a wall. So therefore, that's where the Bryce says, like what we said, that if they're attached, then it's going to be permitted to carry on Shabbos, and the halachic significance is regarding the Erev. And we just say that if, let's say, it gets detached, it becomes undone, but if it gets reattached, then it's going to go back into effect, and you'll be able to carry in that on Shabbos. But now the Gemara says, is that really so? But the Rav Nachman says that Loishon, we didn't learn that it's called a wall on Shabbos. If it got done on Shabbos, is as El Lizrik, is only regarding throwing, which means to say, to make the one who throws from Rosh Hashanah into the area, or from that Rosh Hashanah into Rosh Hashanah to be chayiv. That's when we say that, okay, it's going to be considered as a wall. Avalatalpul, but to be able to be permitted to carry in that area, also it's forbidden rabbinically. How can you say that it's considered as Rosh Hashanah, or whatever this picture is, or it doesn't have it, but in the Rosh Hashanah, in a place that was walled off, that through the walls that came back down on Shabbos, we said, okay, it's considered a wall and you're allowed to carry inside of it. But Rabbi Nachman said that you're not allowed to carry inside of it. It's only as a stringency we can consider it as Rosh Hashanah. So that says the Gemara, when Rabbi Nachman say that it's going to be considered only as a stringency, is amazing. He was talking about when you do it deliberately. You know it's Shabbos, you're doing it deliberately. Because of rabbinic penalty, then we're going to be saying that you can't carry inside of it. When did the Brises say that it's going to go back to its original permissibility? Was it to do it by mistake, or unwillingly, or accidentally? When did the Brises say that it's even going to be by mesidin? Because the Brises said also mesidin, when you do it deliberately, that's on being called a mechitza, and like Rav Nachman said, to be chayiv for throwing inside. So again, if walls are made on Shabbos, they could be considered walls even to carry in the area. If you did it b'shoigig, or mutayin, or anus. When is Rav Nachman saying that no, the walls were made on Shabbos, it's only a wall has a stringency, not that you could carry inside like Rosh Hashanah, but that if you throw from Shazram inside, you can be chayiv. That's if you do it b'mezid, if you do it deliberately, then we penalize you and we say you can't carry inside. Now, continuing to the halacha, related to the halacha of the Mishnah regarding the tying of the boats. So Amar Shmuel, he says this that you permit the tying of the boats one to the other, even if it's tied with the string of a cloak, meaning like what you use for the hoodie. You close the neck of the cloak. You could even use that and tie the boats together, and that can be considered that you can make an erev and carry from one boat to the other on Shabbos. So the Gemara says, wait a second, what's the case to if that string could hold the boats together, that it won't detach. So pshita, obviously, what's the chiddush? Who cares that it's string from your sweatshirt? And if it cannot hold it together, now why should that be good? It can't hold it together. The whole point is that we're concerned that it's going to separate and that erev is not going to be good. So it has to be tied together. So what are we telling you in Shmuel's halach? Says the truth is that it could hold it together. So what's the chiddush? Shmuel, who was saying this teaching, was coming to exclude from something he himself said in the context of a different halacha, that he said that actually when you're tying it together, has to be with chains of iron. And that's what he's telling over here, you don't need like over there. That's what he's saying. You're right, no chiddush really. If it's holding it together, who cares what it's made out of? It's just that he's coming, and this is how Rashi explains. Tais has many difficulties with Rashi interpretation, but this is how Rashi says it, that it's coming to exclude from a different one of his halachas. We're there when you're chaining the boat, it has to be with a metal chain. It's not like we're in the Mishnah says this always. Mishnah says if kosher, if someone ties a boat, the dabar hamamida, with something that will keep it anchored. If let's say one end of that chain is tied onto a room which has a dead person inside, so maybe la tumah. So that's going to bring tumah to all the utensils on the boat, and even the boat itself is going to become tumah. Let's say it's what we called on Daf Gimel a swing the sayardin, very narrow boat. We said that's makabel tumah because it's metal to moli berekan. So then the boats and everything inside is going to become tumah. But let's say you're tying the boat to a room that has tumah inside of it, has a dead person, by something that's not normally used to station a boat. For example, something that's not made out of metal. So then maybe la tumah, so that's not going to bring tumah to the kalim in the boat. Meaning, the boat itself is not going to become tumah from that chain to be an ava tumah. Rather, it's going to become a rishon tumah because the dead person in the room is considered aviyah v'yisrael. The chain itself, that's not metal, is going to become an ava tumah because every time it transmits to something else, it goes down one level. The boat itself is going to become a rishon tumah. So therefore, a keli cannot become tummy from a rishon, only from an av. The kelim are not going to become tummy. Now, v'amar Shmuel had explained. He says this that we said that if you're tying it in something that's mamida that could really hold it tight, that we said then it will make the kelim on the boat tummy. That's v'hu shiur b'shal shalet shel basil. That's if you're tying it, you're anchoring it with chains made of iron. As we're going to shortly explain, that what do we mean? Something that maintains it with a chain. That will bring tumah to the boat and everything inside of it because the boat's going to become an av tumah, and therefore it will be tumah the kelim that's inside because the chain will be like the dead person itself, which will be like an aviyah tumah. Because as the Gemara explains, what?
Metal doesn't down there.
Exactly. What Shmuel's coming to say is that when the Mishnah over there is talking about tying it, that although that our Mishnah is talking about tying. Although you need also over here dava hamamida, see this is where the mistake could have happened. Both halachas need something that anchors it, but it means different things for different places. Regarding the halacha of tumah, regarding that other Mishnah over there in Alis, that the pasuk says in Bamidbar, it says whoever's going to touch on the surface of the field bachalal in a person that was felled, that was killed, but by a cherub, by a sword. Or he's going to touch a dead person, or the bone of a dead person, or a grave. He's going to be tummy for 7 days. What's Bachalal Chereb coming to tell you? Why do you have to talk about the sword that killed him? Chereb Harei Kuchal. It's telling you that the sword is like the dead person himself. To say that just like the dead person's Aviyah V'is, the sword will also be Aviyah V'is. And yes, over there it has to be a metal chain. Because only then will you say the chain will be also like the dead person. Then the boat's going to go down one level to an Av, and then the Kalim itself will become tummy. In the Shabbos, the laws of Shabbos, even the Yachal Amida, since even the Yehudi sweatshirt, that rope could hold it together, the boat, so it's going to be kosher, and it's not similar to the Mamida over there. And if I feel even if it's going to be the string of your cloak, that's going to be valid also because here Mamida just means that it'll stay together. The Mamida was just giving an example of what usually is anchored, which is metallic, which will then give it the halacha of bimatami, the kalim that are inside. Something as we spoke about today's Daf and Shabbos Daf Kuf Aleph was we brought a proof for the halacha that kleichai by Carmelis we did not make a gzeira. And therefore we said according to that man that you could just spill out the water, even though he considers the surface of the sea as the beginning of the Carmelis and it's problematic, and therefore you can't draw the water in. But you could spill it out on the wall of the boat because it's just kleich becomes. Where do we see that? We see that by an interesting case from Rabbi Yehuda, that he says that if you have a boat, that the boat is 10 tefachim deep, so that's going to be a reshus hayachim, but the outside of the boat is not 10 tefachim from the surface of the water, that you could spill it out. Wait, why you allowed to spill it out and you're not allowed to take it in? Because you're spilling it out on the wall, which is kleichai, and kleichai b'kamelis le'gosh. Then we spoke about these canoes in Mation, which we said you can't carry in the boat, only within Daled Amas. Why? Because he says now Rosh Hashanah. Because the walls, when it gets to 3 tefachim from the bottom of the boat, it's not Daled Amas, and if it's not Dalet Amis, so then you can't consider Rishus Yachid. Now, there, however, were two exceptions. If, let's say, when it's not less than 3, it's already 4, then you consider that as Lavid. That's going to be considered as, the walls go down to the bottom. Or, if you fill it up with Koniva or Urvani, fill it with reeds or with willow branches, so then that stuffs it up. It's like, that's the bottom of the boat, and then you will have Dalet. Then the Gemara, the Machlek, is a discussion, which we do, the Gemara sounds like it concludes. If you say good achas, which will reject actually that's halacha, this will reject and say that no, it's not really true. That is because, like the case of Amid B'Rishus Harab, and by the base, you don't have Dalet Tfachim. We said still you can be chayiv for throwing on the top, because you will say good achas. You'll say that it extends downwards, and you'll see the walls that are on the top is going down. You tell me the Chacham say you're exempt when you put the pole and on the top is a basket, that they the Chacham say that you're going to be pater. Why is that any different? Why do you say good achas? That's because the Gedolim are boikava. The goats are walking over there. In contrast to that case of the beam where it's pretty wide even on the bottom, it just doesn't have the 4, they're not going to go over there. And also in the water, that is, there's no goats over there, and even the fish, we say it's also not considered bekia because you don't see them, like Rashi says, and therefore that's the halacha that we prove, that we say lechitza tluya works on top of water, and therefore you will say good achas, and therefore actually the canoes will be able to be carried, even more than dalamas, because it is rishus yachid. Because you will say lechitza tluya is materis by water. Then we spoke about tying the boats in the Mishnah. We said then you're allowed to carry from one to the other. So we said no, it's not coming to say, let's say when you have a small little canoe in between the 2 yachts or the cruise ships, because it says mizula zu. So obviously it's not the case that we're referring to in the Mishnah. Now we said the chiddush is la'arif. We're talking about it's owned by 2 different people, the 2 boats. The chiddush is, like Terry says, you can make an error from one boat to another. That's a pretty big chiddush because it's not even stationary things. That's still considered that you're allowed to carry as long as they're tied. Because if they're not tied, we're considered they're going to float away, and then they're not considered, the eruv can't work when you have a commerce in between the 2 boats. Now, parenthetically, we then brought in actually the halachas of mechitza, and we said that even if it was made on Shabbos, it's going to be okay. Unless it was done b'mezid, then we penalize you, and we say that only stringently we're going to consider that rishus yachid to throwing it in. But to actually carry in the area, if you did it deliberately, then you're not allowed to go ahead and carry inside the area on Shabbos. Then we ended off with halacha shmuel, and we said that even if it was tied b'chut hashabel, if you tie the 2 boats, it's okay. Someone says, of course, what's the difference? If it holds, it holds. If it doesn't hold, it shouldn't work. So no, it's coming to exclude from a different one of Shmuel's halacha. When we spoke about tying the boat regarding the laws of tumah, that specifically tying it with metal, what's called dava hamamida, over there, keeping it together was a different connotation. That was regarding, because metallic is what usually the chains are made out of metal, at least in Talmudic times, and then that would hold it together. That's something that would make the kalim inside would be tamei. That would come to say that in our halacha, that davamida doesn't have to be metal. There could be even some string, as long as it holds together, that will be valid for the halacha of carrying from one boat to the other with the air that you make. Thank you for any time.